What's up, guys? Dishsoap here, and we're going to be doing a mid-patch rundown. I haven't really done one of these before. Usually you just do an update at the start of the patch, but since the B-patch came out, feels like a good time as I need to do this. We'll be talking about the 15.4 B meta, just the comps in general, and like overall trends. And yeah, let's just get into it. In the most recent patch, biggest changes from the previous meta is that fan service. I got nerfed socialite been removed. That was a really big deal for like a lot of comps, not just Rise, but it was most played in Rise, but also like Kaisa and like a lot of the bruiser setups, they used it a lot. They removed veteran, which doesn't really change that much. Not many people were playing it. Nerfing Jin in packs like Mundo Jin and crew reroll, pretty impactful. Kaisa nerf is really big. It's just also just a big nerf. Makes Kaisa a lot less consistent. And they also doubled down on the fan service nerfs by nerfing Rakan himself. The last nerf was Mal's. They removed Shadow Clone, which was his best power up, and then they nerfed his spell as well. And for the buffs, they buffed Ashe AD, Karma mana, and Leona mana. The Leona mana is like not that relevant. Yumi is still kind of trash, but Ashe and Karma have shifted it a little bit more. Like Ashe currently is viable to play when she really wasn't in previous patch, and Karma buff makes a lot more comps more viable. Viego was like one of the reroll comps in the previous patch that didn't get touched at all, so it makes sense why he's dominating here. Although I will say he's not really broken unless you have specific artifacts for him. I kind of just made a tier list for artifacts on him because he can use so many. I honestly probably wouldn't play it with like anything below B tier, but like these do exist. Yeah. But the main ones are going to be Wits End, Sniper Focus, and Zhonya's. Wits End, a lot of people don't know this. They think it's like an on-hit item, but like this item gives a disgusting amount of defensive stats. 30 armor and MR and 300 health. Like that is kind of crazy for the fact that it also gives you attack speed and healing. Just very crazy item. Sniper's Focus just lets him go range. The best build with him is Stretchy Arms, and if you go Sniper's Focus on him, you can keep him safe, and in the end of the fights, the Stretchy Arms will just be doing 1,000,000 damage because of the Sniper's multiplier. Zanya is just kind of an overpowered item in a lot of the late game fights this set, so it just makes sense to keep him alive. And Flicker Blade is just better Ginsu, and then you already want to kind of build Ginsu on this guy, so it just makes sense. RFC is just a shitty Sniper's Focus because it gives you more attack speed, but it doesn't give you the damage amp, which is what you actually want. You get the Stretchy Arms effect where he gets a range increase whenever you kill an enemy, but you still kind of want to go Stretchy Arms, so it's like it's fine. It's good, but it's just not as good as the other ones. And then Shiv is kind of a worse Wits End, but it's like not that bad. It just gives you a lot of base stats, 40 AP, 40 AS, just fine. But yeah, basically you want to be playing this if you just have a bunch of copies and are uncontested, which is kind of rare this patch. A lot of people either play this or like standard Soul Fighter, or if you have the artifacts. Another S tier we have is 7 Mech. The thing about this is like it's pretty inconsistent. If you're low rolling, it's basically Yone lottery. Otherwise, you need to be in a good enough spot to like be able to push 9, which is just kind of a hard ask at the moment. But if you can actually get to the 7 mech board, it's really strong. The mech just destroys everything. Karma itemization, specifically in this build, has like kind of changed a bit. You kind of want like support Karma. So we have Void Staff on her. And with Void Staff, there's not really any room to go like the crit build. So we just have Death Cap and Blue Buff. Blue Buff in like the previous patch got a rework to like give you more, like 10% additional AP. And we have a decent amount of AP on this unit, so it makes sense there. But yeah, you just when you get 7 mech, you're just super strong. Before you get 7 mech, it's a little rough. Usually you play like some 5 mech board with like usually Rise, and then your +2 is like I don't know, like a Poppy and like a Janna or something, or like a Cassante and a Janna. It's not going to be great. You're just kind of in Yone waiting room, but I don't know. It's a good comp. You can kind of flex it on roll down with Rise as well. I think Rise after the Socialite nerf, like it does hurt, but the comp still has a lot of good things going for it. You get to play Volley. You get to play 2 carries. You have just a ton of CC, and the itemization is like pretty flexible, which is nice. But enough about that. I want to say like one of the true driving forces in this meta is actually like the hero augments. The hero augments were completely unnerfed, even though they were like already like really strong. Specifically Max Vitality, which is kind of weird for a carry, but Mundo's spell has like HP scaling. You don't actually want to build HP items on him because it's just not efficient, but it works out so that the power-ups are like just efficient for giving him damage. So Max Vitality is kind of like a crazy hit on him, which is just kind of nice. And he kind of just destroys the whole board. He just does too much damage, especially with HP. One of the Giga hidden techs is if you get Bruiser Spat on Mundo is not very fair because of the HP scaling. You might even want to play like 6 Bruiser with like Mundo backline's kind of weird instead of Juggernaut, but I don't actually know. And then we have Zac as well. This Augment is stupid. It just one shots your entire backline. Best route for him by far is Fusion Dance. It's definitely worth greeting. You eat like a 6 heavyweight in the mid game, and then late game you pivot to 6 Wraith as soon as you hit the Varus. This only shows a level 8 board. On level 9 you play like a Poppy for 4 heavyweight, but yeah. And then we have Kennen as well. I don't know. People are play more crew now, so like I wouldn't say Janna is like completely uncontested, but like now Rakana is more like available to hit if you don't have Malphite as your tank. And he's just good. And like your late game cap around Akali is usually just completely uncontested, which is nice. Shin as well. Bastions are like kind of seeing an increase in play. There's like Bastion Zaya kind of moving up the ranks, and there's also like Bastion Yasuo and like Bastion Fast 9 as well. But with Shin specifically, with the hero augment, just gives it a consistent source of damage. You can kind of roll on 8 for uncontested, or roll on 6 for uncontested units, which is nice. And then for the other hero augments, like these are all strong, but the problem is they're all like snowball augments. So if you like fall behind, it's just not that great. Like Vi specifically, like you need to heal units to farm gold. If you're not doing that, you're just gonna fall behind. With Garen, same. He has to like cast be strong in fights in order to scale into late game. It's important to note he really wants Shojin now instead of Rageblade, just like Malphite. After they like changed the augments to like give more attack speed, but I think like less base attack speed on the unit, but more from like more bonus attack speed from the augment. I think that's what the change was. So yeah, rounding out A tier. I feel like these are like kind of fake A tiers. I think like Rise is like one of like the only true consistent ones. For Soul Fighter and Jinx specifically, I think both the Soul Fighter and Star Guardian specifically, I think both these comps are like B tier at best, unless you have like Emblem. Or you have Viego 3 for Soul Fighter specifically. Yeah, if you have like Star Guardian or Soul Fighter Emblem, they go up to A tier. But also if you have Tiny Team and you play like this board for Jinx, it also gets moved up. But like on average, your average spot, no conditions, it's for sure like not A tier. Kale actually, I do believe is deserves a spot. The GS buff specifically helped her a lot, as well as just like Wraith has gotten buffed the past few patches. It's kind of nice. Over 9k. Also got buffs specifically like on Kale, but like they just increase the numbers on it. It just benefits Kale a lot because it's one of her best power ups. Because you can't roll mana on her, and she like it's tailored to not give that many tank stats, so just kind of nice. Like this Darius Smolder board is kind of a fake A tier because it's like playing the 3-cost reroll is like conditional anyways, and like this one requires you to hit a relatively early Smolder. But like say you're on like an econ like a Scuttle Puddle, or you get like Rig Shopped or something. This comp is really strong. Darius is completely unnerfed from previous patch. They only nerfed Malzahar, but Darius is completely untouched. So if you just play him with Smolder, who got buffed on like the previous few years patch, it's good. It's just hard to get into the spot. So I'd say like the only like consistent A tiers in my opinion is like Rise, but honestly like this one you have to hit in your roll down or you're fucked. And I think Kayla is reasonable, but obviously for like a 1-cost reroll you have to have a good opener for it as well. So yeah, it's not really the consistent level 8 paradise like I think a lot of people think it might be. Going down to B tier, we have Crew, both Sniper and Ziggs. I think Sniper is like probably better for top 4ing, but Ziggs is better for like actually being able to win the game. I don't actually think I've seen a single Sniper Crew board win a game ever. They've only gotten close when they get like to like Varus 2, Jinx 2 all itemized, but it's just hard. But with Crew you get like the cap around TF, you get Ziggs 3, you get Janna 3, you get Shin 3. You can even move items off Malphite if it makes sense to. Usually when you're like level 9 and you have Braum, I don't know, they're like close, but if you like lose a fight, you can just put it on Shin and then maybe it's the fight diff. But yeah, Ziggs, like, this board just like caps so much higher than the Sniper board, but it's also just so much more expensive. I think this version is like Econ Augment required, whereas the other version you can like kind of get away without an Econ Augment, which is nice. And now we have the newly buffed 4-cost comps, Ashe and Kaisa, or Ashe and Karma. I think both these comps are actually very similar in how they operate, besides the fact that they're AD and AP. Ashe specifically cares more about the 3 costs than Karma does, but I think both of these comps are like item reliant, stage 4 roll down reliant, and also super low cap. You might think Karma cap's high because you get to play Gwen, but like honestly this board kind of just relies on resetting off of like weak front lines, and then if you like as the longer the game goes on, I feel like it's pretty common for you to just get stuck on something and then you just like lose the fight really badly. I haven't really noticed this comp actually like placing that high in the top 4 if it does top 4. Same with Ashe. This board just can't cap their board. Your highest cap is still just playing 7 units because it's still too colossal even after all the nerfs. Just because there's nothing better to play. Like, you can play a Zyra, which is like fine, but yeah, it's just not great. The actual highest cap to this comp is if you have Duelist Emblem on TF, and you can get to itemize everything, but that's just like pretty hard to get to. And Duelist Pad is pretty bad otherwise if you don't have a TF, which is the main problem. And it's hard to like actually craft it because it's hard to craft it because it uses a bow, and you need so many bows in this comp. So he has to be off of an augment, but it's usually just better and more consistent to take like a generic combat or something. Which is just why it's hard to get in the spot. Jug Ash is actually okay as well. I think this board is weaker on level 8 than Colossal Udyr, but if you can actually make it to 9, cap around like Lee 2, Zyra 2, TF 2, which is usually the next unit you play, it's like fine, but not going to be like amazing or anything. Also want to talk about Drift Duelution really quickly. 7 mech is good. Obviously, if you... This kind of gives you a way to cheat to 7 mech, but it's pretty debatable if it's easier to hit Yone or if it's easier to hit Lucian and Senna 3. I think this comp, you should only attempt to do it with like super strong econ and a chance to get Lucian 3 really early, aka like 3-1 or 3-2. You need to be like pushing levels with the lobby on tempo, so you actually hit Senna 3 at a reasonable time. If you don't hit Senna 3 on like late stage 4, 5-1 at the latest, you're just cooked, which is just really hard to get to for a reroll spot. So often you're just gonna see this from like Worth the Wait or Build-A-Bud, or if you just like natural like too many copies. But if you can get to the end game setup where you actually 3-star both of them and you make it to mech, it's just going to be stronger than your 7 mech board because you have 3 stars, right? And then mech also scales off of the 3 stars, which is really nice. So you get even more value. Next, we just have the nerf comps. I don't actually know if they're B tier. The thing is, when we made this tier list, like they were still averaging well because people like knew how to play them. I wouldn't be surprised if these are like C tier, just because people are like playing them well, and then once people figure out how to play other comps well, they're just not that good. Because personally, I have not really seen these comps do that well. Mostly people are playing like this board now for Malzahar, where they're just playing the Flex 4 Wraith board with the Jinx specifically. I've seen this a decent amount. It's worse than Star Guardian with Emblem, but if you have like Cassandra 2 and you have Mal's items, this can be better than like standard Star Guardian without Emblem. So it might be worth considering that. Jin Mundo here exists. Jin kind of sucks, honestly, but Mundo is actually like so insane right now in the meta, just in general. He just kind of never dies. Mundo 3 specifically. Problem is, the Jin is not that good. You can play like Juggernaut Smolder as well, if that makes sense too. I think usually Bruiser's heavyweight Smolder is better, but Jin is just the backline that exists that pairs with Nard, which helps your Mundo, but honestly, it's like... It's more of just a Mundo comp, and Jin is along there for the ride. And then here we just have the standard Fast 9. I think, like, obviously if you just hit all the 5 costs, it's good, but like, I feel like it's pretty clear how inconsistent this comp is nowadays. I feel like it's still fair to say we're kind of in a reroll meta, like, if it's like a gold or silver augment as well, because people are probably going to be playing around hero augments. If it's like Prismatic Start on an econ portal, I think this is where you're mostly going to see this comp, where you don't have to worry about that many like rerolls and hero augments. Because you need to like save HP in the mid game. If you like lose every single fight in the mid game, you're just screwed for this line. But yeah, not really that much to talk about this. There's K-Jace as well. It's like okay. I would basically only play this off Rig Shop. I wouldn't really play it otherwise. You can like scam some rounds versus people that aren't positioning, but it's just gonna get rolled over by most of the other meta threats. I think Kog'Maw is like actually more worth looking into, specifically because he like kind of pops off with artifacts like Flicker Blade, Static Shiv, Don Corzani's Wit's End. We have them all highlighted here. Without Artifact, though, he's like Giga B tier, but like with Artifact and like a Cog on 2-1, he's like super strong. Probably like at least high A. And for some new comps, I wouldn't be surprised if these are like truly B tier, but people just haven't like figured out the optimizations yet. We have Bastion Yasuo. It just takes Bastion and Yasuo and you roll for Yasuo and Swade. That's about it. The like super strong conditions for this comp is always just a bunch of copies like any standard reroll comp, but specifically Sniper's Focus on him goes insane. You can kind of take Sniper's Focus on 2-1, hold like the Xin Zhao, hold like the Soul Fighters, hold the other Bastions, and then flex between Yasuo and Viego depending on how the lobby looks and how like uncontested you are and like what items you get, which is pretty nice. And then this is basically just the Viego board, except instead of like rolling on 7 for Viego first, you roll on 6 for Lux and Xin, and then you like cap your board on level 7 around Viego. But it's basically just Viego. I've played this a few times. I've gone like second a few times with it. It's pretty good if no one's playing Viego, but usually people are going to be playing Viego. So I don't think it's very good if you only have a Lux 3s and 3, unfortunately. And then Yumi, they buff Leona. This unit is still trash. Just like I would not recommend playing this. You can probably top 4 if you like natural everything, but the comp just feels so slow nowadays. And then we have Kaisa got nerfed. Cat, the only good build on her last patch was Veteran, and they removed it. Yeah, I mean, you could like scam fights in the mid game and like maybe go 4th, but that's probably about as best you can do. There's Smolder as well. The best version of Smolder is the standard heavyweight version. For whatever reason, if you just have more of like the Juggernaut or Bastion frontline and you have like the Smolder start, you can just play it. It's like not like completely unplayable. And then this is just Volley Jinx, which I think is just worse than normal Stargrady and Wraith Jinx, but for whatever reason, if you have like Luchador emblems or you have like you just hit Volley 2 with items on Frodan, you can consider it. And now I just want to talk about like generic artifact opener. We kind of talked about like good artifacts for Viego, but specifically this is just going to be for like you rip a Forge on 2-1 or it's like the artifact portal. Flicker Blades, still good after the nerf, really good on Viego, it's good on Ashe, it's good on Kale, mainly it's good on Cog. It's good on every unit that like Rage Blade you could consider it on, it's just a better version of the item. Shiv, I wouldn't sleep on it. I think this item is like super underrated by the masses, but it's just really good. Mostly because like all the other broken artifacts got nerfed, but it just gives a ton of stats. 40 AP and AS is really good. It's good on Kale, it's good on Viego Cog, good on Ziggs. It's also good on like just Sorks in general, like Karma, because the Shiv proc scales with your AP. So if you have 6 Sork, it's just gonna do a ton of damage, and it's just gonna be your like replacement for like the Guard Breaker or like the Nashers or whatever like attack speed item you have, because it gets 40 AS. It's really nice. Snipers is good. Obviously, it's like good on Gwen. It's like okay as a flex item, but specifically for Viego and Yasuo, you can kind of just like flex like a good reroll line. You could like flex towards Gwen. You could just have it as it's never just bad as a generic item. So this item is just never going to be bad. Also, I don't have Manazin here. Manazin's kind of in the same boat. It's just good on like basically every single unit that wants a meta item. Even after the nerfs, it's just good. Like you just make it, or you just take it and you put it on anyone you ever consider putting mana on. With the caveat of, I think specifically Rise. I wouldn't put this on Rise because it doesn't really, you kind of like overflow and it's not that great. Wits End, really good for Viego. It's like mainly Viego. It's good on TF as well. If you can like play like a Bastion Viego early game and then you maybe can play like Bastion TF late game carry, but like that's a little bit inconsistent. But I think this item is like so strong on Viego for like mid game tempo. Just because of like the flat damage and the healing it does, that like even if you're contested, you can probably just like top 4, top 3 off of just HP lead alone and just play standard Soul Fighter. Ludens is basically here only for how good it is on Ahri. It's just disgusting in the stats. So you probably just play Ahri with like, and you either just default Sork or like standard Star Guardian, and you just have like a Giga Nuker in your backline, pretty much. I wouldn't like ever, like you probably wouldn't even want to reroll RE3. Like maybe if you have like just a bunch of copies in Rig Shop, you can like reroll Ahri and Swain, but you just put this on your RE2 for like a really strong mid game and like a secondary late game carry threat. Moguls is here just for like the early game gold generation. This item actually is like pretty bad in the late game, but usually you get enough reforgers that you can just justify reforging it like later. But it usually gives the most amount of gold from all the gold gen items, which is why I have it right up here. Specifically, you should really only be taking this if you have a tank slam, but if you have a tank slam plus like a tank power up plus an upgrade, you're just going to be farming infinite. Zoni is really broken on Viego, but also just good in general on like all the AP carries the set. People just build Edgenite generically on carries, and this is kind of just a better Edgenite, unless you don't want AP at all. But for any units that want AP, it's just like kind of a broken Edgenite, which is nice. If you have a unit that can get Shadow Clone specifically, you can kind of get 2 Zonia's procs and scam fights like that, which is like really obnoxious. Dawncore's mostly just here because it's broken on Cogwell. It's not really good on anything else, and you need the Lulu at the start of the game to get this, so it's not that good. Or like you shouldn't like take this default like without a plan. I would like play this if you know you can't play Cog, basically. Blighting Jewel is like only good on Mouse. It's like, I think it's like fine on Karma, but it's not like anything to write home about. Specifically, if you take this on Karma, you like kind of need Blighting Jewel. There's that to consider. Gambler's Blade, I think in theory should be better than Moguls, but I kind of struggle to find a good holder for this item late game, specifically a carry. It feels like late game it just ends up kind of being a dead item. It gives a ton of attack speed, but like I feel like most of the units just spawn like a different item in the slot, and it kind of feels like you're like have a half item in the late game, which is not great. But obviously, if this lets you like fast 9 specifically with like Shadow Clone, it's like obviously really good, and you always have the option to reforge it. So I don't think it's ever like a bad option to just take generically. TFG is just like a death cap. Just think of it exactly as a death cap. You do want to position your unit to like hit the tank, so you can burst their tank down, but it's just a death cap. RFC kind of talked about it earlier. It's mainly just for Viego, but it's also just like okay generically. Attack speed is attack speed. You can put on like Yasuo, I guess, or just anything that wants like generic attack speed. But it's not great for that purpose. Fishbones still can scam lots of fights with Jhin and Kai'Sa. The thing is, like, this item got a 20% AS nerf. Jhin and Kai'Sa got big nerf, so you might not be one-shotting the backline immediately, unless you have like other good setup for it. But say you have like a rating item on one of those units, or you have like a ton of stacks on Kai'Sa, and you can actually get to the threshold where you're one-shotting stuff. It's obviously still going to be as good as it was. Light Shield Crest is like mid as fuck. But if you're specifically playing a Bastion line, or you have like a Stoneplate start, you actually get like a ton of shielding, which is kind of neat, but it's like nothing to write home about. Honestly, these other items, like, they're just whatever. I wouldn't write home about it. They're not gonna like ruin your game, but they're not gonna like be insane or anything. Cutlass specifically, I would probably stay away from it unless you're at an elo where no one positions around it, and then it's broken. But I feel like this item is always good and like really, really broken in the stats, but like in actual game against humans, at least in my elo, they never let their carry get cutlassed, so it's just bad. But it always has insane stats, so I feel bad like putting it lower. And here we just kind of have the outdated melee items. None of these are good. Yeah, unfortunately. Like Min is like okay, honestly, but like if it's your artifact, you're just probably cooked. Prowlers is good on like Darius with the crit build specifically, but I would never take this out of box to play Darius. That's just not really consistent. Like, I don't know. Maybe if you start the game with Darius out of box with IE, you could take Prowlers. I feel like it's just so inconsistent if you're just taking it as your first item. And then Indomitable is an item that a lot of people think is really good, and I see this taken a lot, but the item is like not good. The reason it like a lot of people take it is because it has good average because of it's one of the Crystal Gambit cash out items. But when you exclude that, it's like one of the worst items in the, or like one of the worst artifacts in the stats. So I just have it rank C. It's just like a generic tank. It's like not offensive or anything. So if you really just need something like generic, you can take it, but I think it's just worse than all the other generic tank artifacts. Hole Crushers or Hydras here legit has no user. I don't even know why this is in the set. It's just like, I don't know, it's super mid. You like, I think the dream on for this item is you have like a Bruiser Spet and you put it on like TF or maybe like Mundo Hero Augment, but like that is some copium. Silvermare sucks after the nerf. Trenchcoat sucks after the nerf last set. Talisman has always sucked, and then Seekers was good on like Rakan last patch for like half a second, and then nerf Rakan. I don't think this thing has many other holders. I mean, maybe Nico Hero Augment, but I wouldn't even be surprised if it wasn't even good on her. But yeah, that is gonna be the tier list and just the mid-patch update. Obviously, you can just look at the tier list yourself on TFT Academy, but I feel like it's probably worth it to like talk about the generic shifts. What I will mention is I think a lot of people think that this patch is not a reroll patch anymore because it's like less of a reroll patch than it was, but I feel like that's like a little misleading. I feel like the default 4-cost lines are actually still not that strong, and they're only really going to be popping off with like specific augments or emblems and stuff, which is probably not what they intended. And right now the best comps in the game are like super conditional. They're like hero augments, they're emblems, they're artifacts, as you do. Or they're comps that like require you to hit 5 costs, like Crystal Gambit or Yone for mech. Yeah, not my favorite patch. It feels like one of the most conditional metas we've had in a while, but that is my read on it. So yeah, anyways, that's going to be it for the video.